We're now on the last part of setting up our VirtualBox lab environment. And in this video, what we're going to do is have the Windows workstations join the domain. So we'll switch over to VirtualBox. We have everything running, which is important. Anytime you run one of these machines inside this environment, you want to make sure at a minimum pfSense is running. And that once these machines join the domain, if it's one of the Windows machines running, then the domain controller needs to be running also. But we'll go to our Windows VM 10 number 1 first. Okay, so now we're in our Windows machine. First thing we're going to do is we're going to run the command prompt as administrator. And what we want to do is confirm our IP address. We see we're at 1.12. So now we want to set up a static IP address. So you can right click the network, open network and internet settings in the bottom right corner. Once that opens up, we want to change adapter options. We want to right click Ethernet, go to properties, and then we want to right click the Internet Protocol version 4, go to properties. Now we're going to set the static IP address 10.0.1.12. We also want to go ahead and set up change our DNS settings to 10.0.1.14, which is our domain controller. We can go ahead and select OK. Don't forget to set the subnet mask and then select OK. Okay, to review the settings one more time, the IP address is 10.0.1.12. The subnet mask is 255.0.0.0. And now this is the important one. The default gateway, which in this case is 10.0.1.1. So that is the adapter on the router for this network segment. So you do not point the default gateway at the domain controller. You set the default gateway to the router. Now below this, for the DNS server address, that is the IP address of the domain controller. So that is 10.0.1.14. Now what we want to do is down at the bottom window, we want to just type the word domain, and then we want to select the access, work, or school. Select connect. Select join this domain to local Active Directory. Our domain name is ecore.local. All right, so now we're asked to use a domain account to verify that you have permission to connect to this domain. So we'll use the administrator. And select the password that you gave the administrator. Select OK. Now we want to enter the account for the person who'll be using this PC. This person will have default permissions for the domain. So this is the P price account. We'll just do it as a standard user, and we'll click next. Then it wants us to restart. Now you see when we go to log in, it's got the domain name in the front. Just type in his password. And now we can see that it's joining the domain. Basically, it goes through some of the initial settings because you're logging in with the domain account. So we can do the same thing on Windows. While this is doing this, we'll switch over to the Windows 10 2, and we'll do the same thing. First, we want to confirm our IP address. All right, it's 1.13, so that's working well. We're inside the IP range, so now we just want to make that static. Select Change Adapter Options, right-click Ethernet, go to Properties, select Internet Protocol version 4, go to Properties. We want to use the IP address that we just looked at, which is 10.0.1.13. This time we'll not forget to set the subnet mask, and we'll go ahead and use the DNS server on our domain controller. And we'll select OK. Okay, once again, to review the settings, we have the IP address, which is a static IP address for this machine is 10.0.1.13, the subnet mask of 255.0.0.0, and the default gateway is 10.0.1.1. Remember, that is the adapter on the router. And then our DNS server address is our domain controller, which we configured to be a DNS server as well, is 10.0.1.14. Move some of the stuff out of the way, and then we just want to now join the domain. So we type in domain at the bottom, and it asks us to access work or school. We'll select, then we select connect, and then come down to join this device to a local Active Directory domain. So domain name is ecore.local. Select next. We'll log in now as the administrator. Okay. Just like we did previously, we'll use the user's account, which this one was T. Colby. Standard user. We'll click next, and then we can restart the PC. So while that's restarting, we'll jump back over to our Windows 1, and we're set up. Just confirm now back with Windows 2. We'll log in with Terry Colby's password. It's working the way it should. The last thing we can do is now go to our domain controller. Go to Tools, Users and Computers. And now what we're doing is just confirming that our two workstations have joined the domain. So congratulations, we've just set up an Active Directory environment inside a virtual lab. So in future exercises, this will make it really easy to run these exercises in labs because we have this environment set up. There may be labs that we have to install specialized software for the purpose of that lab, but the infrastructure is already going to be set up, so we can save a lot of time throughout the rest of the course. Okay, now that we have everything set up, everything is working, we want to go ahead and take a snapshot of every machine right now in this clean state where everything is working. And the reason we want to do this is if we run into problems, we break something later, we can always go back to the beginning when everything is running. If not, if we forget to take these snapshots, we would have to reconfigure some or all the machines. So to do the snapshots, you select the hamburger menu there and select snapshots, and then select take. And we're going to call this one clean environment. Select OK. Go to the Kali box, same thing. You see the take is already listed on the top, so we'll hit the take button. What a snapshot does, if you're not familiar with snapshots, is it takes a snapshot literally of the current state of that system. So we can always revert back to that state of when we took that snapshot. Now, when you revert back to a previous state or a previous snapshot, you will have to turn the virtual machine off and then revert back. But as these are finishing up, this completes our lab setup.